included in this $1 billion that has been approved by Mr. President?
Well, that's a very valid question because we cannot win this war by buying only armaments. We can win this war through the hearts and mind of the people. The troops fighting, their welfare must take preeminence before you talk of... because if you get equipment and the people who are to manage are disenchanted, they are not happy, how are they going to work? So I believe that they should also take proper care of the welfare of the troops. It's very, very paramount. So if the money is part of it, well and good.
We have also had this situation whereby there's been a lot of people, millions of people displaced because of the insurgency in the Northeast. Do you think that the government is really aware of how to replace the army formations with the civil police? Because we will get to that point where there has to be that transition, where civil establishment is put in those places, especially in the Northeast. Are the police being trained enough? Is there a program that will ensure that smooth transition?
Well, you see, the police, for instance, has its own challenges. They're underfunded, their strength is not sufficient. And that's why I was happy that the IG have been hammering on this. We don't have sufficient men. We have less than a little above 400,000 strength of the police. And over 100,000 are in protective duties. When the IG gave the directive, I knew it was not going to last. Because a lot of people who held it, well, we're going to withdraw so that we'll have men. If you withdraw 100,000 people and send 10,000 to the Northeast, I think it makes a lot of sense. But will this policy be implemented? That's the problem.
So if you were talking to the authorities now, what would your advice be with regards to this $1 billion that we're hoping to see come through?
Well, you say, if I was talking to the authorities have a mindset. They have what the money is meant for. So it will be too late now for me to begin to advise them on what to do with the money because it's been earmarked, it's been not budgeted for, it's been approved by the president for such spending. So, but I, as a person, would rather suggest that the welfare of the troops would take preeminence, would take the front burner. Because if you buy 12 helicopters without pilots, how are you going to man them? They are not unmanned drones that you say with them. So the welfare must be very, very paramount. And the police on its part must deploy to areas that have been secured.
Let's turn to Mr. Anyegbenam on this one. I mean, what option did the government have if they said National Assembly was still going to approve it because they thought it was their account is illegal, or is it too late, as Mr. Jovo has alluded that the money has been earmarked already?
Well, the issue is the president had his budget for the year, which he presented. As at the time he was presenting this budget, these issues were on ground. So the basic issue would have been, why wouldn't the president come with a supplementary appropriation to solve this problem? Because we are still talking of what? Accountability, transparency, and rule of law. These are the key issues on this particular issue. And we have had this issue of excess crude accounts from Obasanjo era up to this moment. And we all know that this is not what? A constitutional what? Fund. Whatever you are doing. And it has dragged up to this level. So the basic issue now is, if you are on, what we had in mind was what? A corrective regime, where we will see issues, take the basic course to see what? The betterment of every Nigerian. We have been on this issue, Boko Haram, now herdsmen, and all kidnapping and the rest of them. Like you talked about the architecture of our national peace setting. And I laughed because we have what? A national peace policy. And there have been committees and reports on these issues. And they are collecting dust. Because the policy is not what? Geared towards what? execution of these issues on proactive and holistic measures. We are still having what we call the piecemeal approach to a very collective, serious national issues. Where now lies Nigerian sovereignty in the face of what? Articulate, coordinated policy for internal and external defense of the country. So these are the basic issues we have on ground. And particularly as at this hour, we are in April, which is the second quarter of the year. Our budget for the year has not been approved, even by the National Assembly.
In fact, let me even bring in this part, because what do you make of it when people say they're not exactly clear what's going on? Because if the government is suggesting that, well, giving amnesty to the insurgents will put an end to this war, and then on the other hand, they say, well, yeah, Boko Haram may have been sufficiently decimated, so we may not have engaged in the same approach that we had. And then requesting this kind of funds. Is there any confusion whatsoever that indeed we need those two kind of equipment that they need to buy?
The African foremost diplomat is Kofi Annan. He made one statement in 2017. He said that out of his experience, that public policy is best shaped by dispassionate analysis of what in practice has worked or not. That policy based on common assumptions and popular sentiments will constitute recipe for misguided intervention and mistaken what? Prescription. All these are what? Are not what? Coordinate and proactive what? Measures to solve a national problem. And that's why we are still going around the circle. You remember the PDP regime. At a point in time, a pastor took our funds to South Africa to purchase arms. We've all kept quiet about that. And we have not finished with the last expense of huge amount of money spent on this particular item. It is still in court. And we have come back typically at the same period. We are now having a certain trend that within any level of election, we will have public funds which will be thrown off, if not for anything, as a sludge fund towards execution of political agenda, while the basic issues remains. Now the issue of amnesty.
We'll come to that in just a moment when we return. Don't go away.